Sorry, I forgot to put that on, and Lon may want to give this to some of his people, so.
Yeah, you're saying, John, we really can't know for sure,
Yeah.
but we can be confident that Theophilus at least would have understood this term in the evangelist sense. Mhm. Yeah. Okay, back to the woman then, just for a second, just so I don't get too far afield here. Back in verse 50 of chapter 7, said to the woman, "Your faith saved you, go in peace." I'm wondering if that isn't also evangelistic salvation, because of the threat implied in verse 49. So your sins are
Yeah,
forgiven.
it's quite possible.
So he's reassuring her that by faith she is already saved eternally. That would be my way of taking it. That the forgiveness is not the salvation, but because those who sat at the table raised this issue, he affirmed her and reminded her that faith is what saved her to begin with, and maybe this is included in salvation, but it's not. It's not faith that gives you. You're not saved by forgiveness. just to keep this straight, woman. Yeah, forgiveness is not salvation. Your faith has saved you eternally, and so you're set no matter what people are saying. That would be my sort of take on it. Does that sound reasonable, John?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, all right.
That's the position, by the way, that the GES commentary took on that verse.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, at least there are two of us who are sticking our neck out there.
So her faith is that he's the Messiah there, right?
Yeah. Right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Which is why we deduct it's eternal life. That's what she's believed him for.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gives because he's a Messiah, he gives eternal life to everybody who recognizes him as such. Okay, that's all I needed to bring. I'm sorry if that was a distraction. Okay, your blue point there, Steve, under negative family examples. We say true family members, and I think we were going to try to clarify that, or maybe not, but for sake of those who might want to say, well, you're not really a member of God's family unless you commit, right? That can be twisted to a lordship position.
Yeah.
Right.
Does that make sense to you?
Yep.
Okay, so maybe we can just tweak that a little bit. We could say discipleship dash family members, discipleship hyphen family members. Right. I mean, isn't that the point we decided on? That this is, and John suggested maybe to avoid the issue entirely, we talk about intimacy and something like that. I'm not sure how that would fit here, but it is family. That's the theme that runs through the whole thing. That's where you'd need a hyphen, Steve. It's a certain kind of family.
So we have the believer family and the disciple family.
Yeah,
Right. Mhm.
And the disciple family have an opportunity to be heirs with the Son. They're more closely related to the Son
sure.
than just being related to the Father.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
that's a big opportunity, and really, uh, I keep having people whenever I teach Matthew saying, because they've been to other churches, well, isn't seeking rewards selfish?
Mhm.
And I keep telling them it's experience with Jesus, a more intimate relationship. And that fits right into this.
Your purple point, I think we might also want discipleship family. I mean, soil 4 is,
Yeah.
We don't even need obedient then, right? Just put the disciple, because if
Yeah.
you're obedient, you're a disciple.
yep.
Yeah. Just a comment, Steve, on what you said a minute ago about discipleship family are more closely related to the Son, and so are heirs, just as regenerate family are related to the Father. That sounds a lot like maybe you were thinking of Romans 8:17.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of.
I didn't catch that, so I'm a little
Yeah,
slow.
and the whole distinction that shows up elsewhere of distinction between children and sons.
Yeah, sorry, I'm slow, but I did finally catch that.
John hammered that home 3 times in a row on 3 different
Oh,
Thursday night Bible teachings. So that's why. I mean, these are key concepts for someone to be incentivized going forward. I mean, if people understood this, there would be no battle about this.
Yeah.
But they're not willing to look at this and really understand what's at stake here.
well, they may be willing, but all of us, some of us at least, Steve, like myself just now, was a little slow in catching it.
Uh, we have to think about how to word this, but I thought of a line of response to the people who are inclined to say, well, rewards are selfish. The alternate theological systems that have the good works as not being rewardable and everyone's on the same playing field because they're done by God. Those people are working to get saved or to stay saved. Isn't that selfish?
That is selfish.
That's true.
I mean, it becomes a matter of figuring out how to word that.
Yeah.
But, you know, fundamentally, that's the thing can be turned right back around at them.
That's good. That's good. Now, I use the term self-interested also in defense of our way of looking at things. Well, maybe it's is it selfish to brush your teeth? Is it selfish to try to get a good night's sleep? Is it selfish to eat well? Is it selfish to avoid walking in the crosswalk when the light's red? No, those are not selfish. They are self-interested. We're protecting ourselves and taking care of ourselves. That's not selfish. Neither is seeking reward selfish. It's self-interested. We're simply looking out for the best possibility for ourselves without excluding other people. We're not hoarding these opportunities for ourselves. We're trying our best to share them, but they're not selfish. They're self-interested.
Yeah, in economics, they have a term, the Edgeworth-Bowley box.
What's it called?
Edgeworth-Bowley box. I never looked into it further, but I think Edgeworth was a person and Bowley was probably a person. And essentially you have a square. And in that square, there are directions that you can move that become beneficial to both parties. And then there are ways you can move within it that's beneficial to only one and detrimental to the other.
Oh, I see.
And so they were seeking with that to show that when the market clears, that it's beneficial to all parties. And so a prime assumption of Adam Smith's microeconomic model is that the market clears. And so market clears when buyer and seller agree on a price. And it becomes beneficial to both parties. Neither one makes a decision that is harmful to him or her. And so then the issue was, well, trading companies like the Jacob Astor's thing, and then the I forget the name of some of those trading companies, they were deemed as being beneficial one direction because they took an unfair advantage of the market and made it so that ultimately the market didn't clear like it was supposed to.
I probably learned about that in Ec 101 60 years ago or so.
You know, I think also the 100-fold disciple maker that we have in Matthew, you're really not a disciple if you're not sharing this with other or making more disciples. I mean,
Yeah,
that's not self-interest. That's getting behind Jesus and doing what he did.
yeah. You know, I think that's an excellent point. The misdefinition of fruit is a major part of the problem. Isn't it beneficial to bring more grain into the storehouse for the Lord? I mean, if that's what's rewardable, their concept is, oh, well, I didn't smoke a cigarette today. That's a good thing, and I'm going to get reward for not having done that. I mean, they're not thinking anything very high. They have to set the bar really low so that they can all say that, they've got lots of fruit.
Kind of like the Pharisees did with the commandments. You've heard it said, but I say.
Yep.
This really, I'll tell you, it brings to light the parable of the mustard seed and the seed and the birds eating all the seed. I mean, all these birds are eating all the seed.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve, just to add to what you were saying, yes, discipleship is following Jesus. That is in the way of earning rewards, but it's also obedience to Jesus, right? I mean, he's the one who says we must do this. We are walking in his pathway, yes, but we're doing so because he told us to do so. So seeking reward is just as much a command as seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. This is simple obedience. It's part of what's expected.
Wasn't Jesus seeking reward? He did
Yes.
what pleased the Father.
I mean, following him is doing exactly what attempting to do what he did. And that's follow the Father's plan, right? I mean, he came and made disciples.
Yeah, thus the Great Commission.
Yeah, and who makes disciples today? Well, I mean, there's a lot of people making disciples, but it's the leaven of men disciples, not Jesus disciples. Okay, so I changed tell me if this wording's so I can put this in blue. The hearing and heeding family are the discipleship family, the true crop producing seed.
Okay. What you have ultimately is using a word in the subject and predicate nominative for defining itself.
I
would
knew
say
it was wrong,
those,
but I couldn't explain it.
Those who hear and heed are the discipleship family. You might think about dropping in a note there that would clarify make it clear that you're not compromising on the idea that there are three of the soils that are believers. That the crop producing seed is distinct from that which is seed that possesses life. It's a subset.
This is really producing disciples though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, another thing, as John, I think that's a good point, because we we got to anticipate that. We also want to, I think we want to anticipate the objection that some believed for a while. I don't know about anticipating an
Yeah.
objection, but it does say they believed for a while.
Yeah.
Verse 13. So what does that mean?
It means they believe for a while.
Yeah.
But they did believe.
It means they're not producing crop. They're not producing disciples.
Well, believe what then? If what you're saying, Steve, is correct, then not believe in Jesus. It's believe uh, the message of fruitfulness, or the message of the kingdom, the larger message of the kingdom, something like that. Right.
Well,
There's nothing, at least in this passage, that says simply believing. We do have John 15, abide in his teaching. But at least
okay.
in this passage, we don't exactly have anything like that. Go ahead, John.
This, you're producing an internal conflict within the passage, because we have taken saved here as receiving eternal life.
Okay.
The issue there for soil number 1 is they didn't believe, they didn't get saved. That is, they didn't get eternal life. I would take it that I think that defines things here for this.
That's a good point. So we're taking believe in the same sense here as we did in verse 12.
Yeah.
And that's the nearest context. We're not going to jump all around. So that
Does that take care of the issues here?
let's see. I wasn't watching what you put in there, Steve. What did you put in?
I put who have eternal life in quotes there, or in parentheses, and then only, however, the crop producing seed are only those who produce disciples.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yep. I think that's
Okay, why don't we clarify only those believers who produce disciples? That way we explicitly make.
Yeah, good.
Now we need some punctuation in that.
Right,
However,
right.
normally start a sentence, you do want a comma there. So I would capitalize the however.
Or you could put a semicolon after the parentheses. Sure. Yeah. That's good.
I like this discipleship family.
Yeah, it's kind of a new idea.
Well, but you know what? I mean, he had inner circles.
Yeah.
Those two inner circles represent something.
Right.
You know, that would be an interesting question to ask people who object to rewards. Was it wrong for John to call himself the beloved disciple, the one that Jesus loved? wasn't Jesus playing favorites when he had an inner circle of 3?
Or an inner circle of 12,
Yep,
right? I mean, he had a lot more disciples.
yep.
Yeah, as I think Paul had the same, right? I can't remember what the terms were, but in Romans 16, you have believers sorted out. The beloved, the much beloved, the the brother, and so forth. I think it happens naturally. People are closer to the spirit of the leader, and it's only natural that there's going to be that sense of unity with the leader. It's not going to be the same for everybody. Okay, just your next red point there, Steve, hearing and heeding. We're taking that as a unit, right? Hearing and heeding, the two go together like love and marriage. So
Right.
that would mean that the word unite should be unites. That's fine. Yeah, hearing and heeding, that's fine. Put a quote around heeding, and then it would be unites. Oops, you need a double quote there. Unites members.
Why is that only going to 1?
You may have your caps lock on.
Nope.
Are you using the shift? Shift?
Oh, no. That's why.
No, wrong place.
Rather than having hendiadys, might we say heedful hearing or something? Or heeding, hearing with heeding, or
Yeah, about heedful hearing.
I think I like that one. Heedful hearing.
And then you don't need the quotes.
let's see, on your red point, negative family members do not heed nor, that would be or, not nor. It would be neither nor, but either or, and either and neither can be, I mean, either can be omitted, but yeah,
That's a mouthful.
Okay, now you're red heading there. I think we're ready to look at that. Negative family examples who do not hear or heed. That's not a sentence. Negative families of those who do not hear or heed offer negative family examples, something like that. That's just a stab. We have both that point and the one similar point under positive families examples here. Those are just descriptions. Those are they're not sentences. Yeah, those who do not hear or heed offer negative family examples, maybe.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I think that's at least a good place to start there.
So are they, oh yeah, because some are family. Is it negative family examples? It's not negative. They're not intimate, maybe, or so something
How about
like,
this? How about this? Those not heeding what they hear illustrate lack of illustrate the lack of discipleship dash family values. I don't know. That's just a start. They illustrate the lack of discipleship dash discipleship hyphen. And then rather than examples of values. This family has family values also. I don't know if that's what we really want, but I think that it's in the ballpark there.
I'll continue thinking on that one, but the next red one, I don't think we have captured it, or else we can send people on a rabbit trail. Jesus is not saying, you disciples, there can be other people who will become closer to me than you. What he's saying instead is, you can become closer than you are. More along that line. I mean, you read that, I can take members in a very generic sense and say, you know, Jesus is saying that anybody else can rise up to become even closer than the disciples. You know, that potential would exist. But he's not saying that because he isn't comparing them with anyone else. I mean, you know, the possibility would be there, but that's not what he's saying.
Yeah.
I mean, he's saying,
Yeah.
you aren't as close as you could be. I mean, you know, that's essentially the thrust.
heedful hearing can unite the 12 with Jesus
more closely or
more
something.
closely. Yeah. Heedful hearing can unite the disciples with Jesus more closely. How about that, John? Is that sort of the
Yeah.
And then you don't need the than merely.
Yeah.
John, on verse 25 there.
Yeah.
I've heard this used as an illustration that one need not believe the deity of Christ in order to believe in him. Because had they believed the deity of Christ, they would have obviously acknowledged that the winds and the water obey him. Have you heard that?
Well, sure. The question here is what is the thrust of the rhetorical question?
I see.
Is the rhetorical question saying, we don't have the foggiest idea who this is,
I see.
or wow?
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to asking, what is the thrust of the rhetorical question?
I see.
Yeah, it's like I was, I can't remember the name of Swindoll's commentary on Ecclesiastes, but he went on a tirade in one verse against Solomon on a rhetorical question. Solomon asked, who knows whether the spirit of
Goes up. Yeah. Yeah.
and so on and so forth. And he said, he doesn't have the foggiest idea of there being a life afterwards and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But in that immediate context, Solomon says that God is going to judge the living and the dead. Well, if he judges the dead, what good does it do to judge the dead if they're dead and gone?
Uh-huh.
And so I think that shows that the rhetorical question is, who knows? Pointing upward, he does.
I see.
And I mean, it's just a fascinating thing how we can get lost so easily on interpretation by making an assumption.
I find that lots of folks don't quite get the concept of figures of speech.
Yep.
It's it just broadly, they jump to, we are good literalists. That's great. But how about being literarists?
Yep.
We need to realize, hey, this is, there's a literary way of saying things, and it doesn't deny the actuality to use figure of speech. now, Steve, the red point just after that, I think we'll want to tailor it as we did the previous sub point at the same level. And this would be something like those heeding what they hear illustrate the discipleship family values that Jesus wants to inspire, something like that.
Can we just say, do we have to have the illustrate the lack? Can we just say lack discipleship family values? Those not heeding what they hear lack discipleship family values.
Well, I think Luke is, yeah, that's a good point.
I just think they lack the values. And we can just put this down here. Those heeding what they hear portray or have or something. Maybe lack's not the word. Maybe there's a better word for that. You need to get more of them, right?
You could say need to acquire.
So my question then is, if we have heedful hearing here, can we do heedful hearers, unheedful hearers need to acquire, and
Sure.
heedful hearers that way?
Yeah.
What did I take something out? I must have. I don't know what I had on the demon possessed man there. I guess we'll have to figure it out.
Did you send us the, I don't
I
think you
did.
sent.
I did. Yeah, I can do that. I think I sent it last week, didn't I?
We'll soon find out, I guess.
The thing that I'm seeing,
I think I see what's going on here. Heedful hearers portray discipleship dash family values. And then you want to delete, starting with verse 19. See where it says 19 to 24?
Yeah,
No, not up there. Back down to your heedful hearers portray discipleship family values 19 to 24.
yep.
at the end of the line,
Yeah, just started,
delete those.
delete those, and
Oh, yeah, you're right.
now delete one more time. There you go.
Good,
That's
good.
all you had.
Yeah, I pasted that above.
Okay, I'm seeing something that uh, okay, we say unheedful hearers need to acquire discipleship family values. Okay, then we ask, what are discipleship family values? Heeding and hearing. I mean,
Well, this is why I think
Oh, you put illustrate there.
the point that where you have your cursor now, gives this. It talks about portraying or illustrating discipleship family values. So I think these two passages, the family and the disciples, they illustrate what these discipleship family values are. So heedful hearers illustrate discipleship family values. That would be my take on it. And then what you've got where you are now, heedful hearers portray discipleship family values is correct. And you don't use don't.
Do not.
Yeah, that's what they call that's a colloquialism. Where you don't use contractions.
yeah, especially you don't use ain't.
Yeah. You don't use it. That's right. Or they illustrate lack of discipleship family values. They illustrate lack of yeah, I think that's what you want, because you don't want to they raise the question of what do they illustrate, but they illustrate lack of discipleship. Yeah, well,
Okay, so I think we can put this in blue.
why is this taking so long? Here's why. It's all brand new ground. I've never heard this. I don't know. Maybe you all have heard it preached, but it's like starting from scratch. Okay, what you got there for demon possessed man?
Our titles.
Yeah. Yeah, the demon possessed man illustrates obedience to Jesus' command to preach the gospel. So
So should I put like by heedful hearing, the demon possessed man portrayed family values?
You know, he's the main focus. Townspeople said, "We don't want you here."
How about the demon possessed by heedful hearing, the demon possessed man contrasted the town people? I'll put it in and then you guys can.
Yeah, the people started out being afraid of the man, then they became afraid of Jesus, and their fear drove them away from Jesus.
Why, hey, John, why isn't there a different name for these two groups and if you use the NASB or the New King James?
Well, yeah.
What's the reason for that? I was going to ask you that last time.
Okay. Between the accounts, you have mention of either Gadara or Gerasa. And I've got an atlas that shows that Gerasa, which is part of the Decapolis, had a port on the southeast corner of the Sea of Galilee. And so Gerasa is a distance away, but I think this took place by the port that was controlled by that city that they used for getting goods, especially fish and so on and so forth, from the sea. And that, so it's
well, it's a textual problem.
yeah, it's a textual issue, but the text, what we have is two of the accounts read one way and the other reads the other.
Yeah.
So and we have Gadara here in Matthew. We have Gerasa, and then in Mark, we have Gadara. So we have two different places between the accounts.
Are these two towns, did you say they're close to each other?
Okay, it says it's here. I think the way it's the region belonging to the Gadarenes in
Verse 37.
Let's see, yeah. That's the Coron there. It's yeah, each one of the passages uses the word Korah. And so the question becomes, how can it be a region of Gadara and region of Gerasa? And that, but you essentially have a port that was known as the port of Gerasa on the southeastern part of the Sea of Galilee, but it was within the region of Gadara.
So Gerasene is in the region of Gadarene. It's a smaller
No,
portion,
the
like a
port,
county.
yeah, well, the port belonged to them. You know, it'd be like you go to Washington, D.C., and you've got all of those embassies belonging to the various countries, and it's sovereign territory that belongs to another country.
But it's
Yeah.
still in America
Yeah.
or in DC. Okay.
And so, you know, a person can say, well, I was in Russian sovereign territory within the United States.
Right.
And so someone can say, well, I was in DC. Another person says, well, I was in Russian territory.
Right. Right. Okay.
And so, I mean, that's the reconciliation between them. It's a different way of looking at it, but not in contradiction, although it's been thought to be a severe contradiction.
Okay. How's that look?
Yeah, I think, John, this would be one of those cases where you don't like a suspensive adverbial clause before the subject of the sentence. Is that correct? Would you say the demon possessed
Yeah.
man portrayed discipleship family values by his heedful hearing?
Yeah. Topic before comment is preferable.
What did you say, John? Topic before comment?
Topic is independent clause. Comment is dependent clause. Our only common exception to that is we usually go if then rather than if. And both in Greek and English, it's far more common to have topic first.
You don't need a capital for demon, Steve.
Oh, yeah.
You don't need discipleship. You don't need a capital on discipleship either. And it may be that that's common in this whole section in your outline.
Yeah.
So
I think I put it on every one of them.
Well, you can,
you can
well,
search.
actually, you can search by case. You know what I mean, Steve?
Yep. I just wanted to find the first one. I think it's right here. Let's see.
No, it's under home.
Control H, Steve. Control H.
It's under home if you want to get there the other way. Yeah, file outlining home. Now off on the right-hand side on the ribbon, you'll have replace, replace. Yeah, get rid of the, oh, okay, there we go. You put lowercase there. Spell out discipleship with lowercase and then replace it with upper.
Now
You don't want to do it the other way?
No, lowercase. Now down under replace, put it with a capital.
Oops, I think that's backwards, John, isn't it?
No. Oh, no, you're right. Yes, I'm sorry. I got turned around. Okay, then go to more. Match case.
Okay, you may find some sentences that earlier started with capital D's.
Okay.
Since there are only 6, you could undo that and then just go one by one.
Go back there.
Hit
Just undo.
Control Z.
Okay, now go to your section where you find the first one.
But you don't even have to do that. It'll get there. Just go back to replace. Home, over on the right, replace. Find next.
Okay.
Replace, not replace all, just replace. No,
Again,
it automatically is finding, but you skipped one.
You skipped one.
So how do I go back one?
Well, just click in your text. Before the word discipleship. It won't find it if you are within it. It's going to have to find first.
There you go. There you go. Good.
Not that one. No. That one.
Oh, yeah.
That one should be capitalized.
Okay, so you'll have to close this and close your find and replace box. Well, you can do it that way too. The old-fashioned way.
Whoops.
Whoa.
Oh, this is going to be a disaster.
I close your find and replace box. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Well, actually, you can just. But
Yeah. Now I'll hit it one more time. There. Okay. Now bring your cursor. Oh yeah, just find next. There you go, Steve. That's it.
Well,
Yeah,
that was,
You might want to go back to the beginning, just in case. Okay. I guess, no, we just started doing that in here.
yeah. Well, we just started that. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so I think we're good. Sorry that was so painful. So we have a contrast in the other one too, right? We have the same thing. The daughters portrayed discipleship, family value, or I guess Jairus and the daughters. I guess the daughter really didn't.
Well, the daughters did, but the father also, the father's an encouraging example because he started to lose faith, but then recovered it.
Okay, so I'm gonna do this.
Yeah,
So I can put the healed daughters, right? Jairus and the healed daughters.
okay. Now, just one thing: the Gadarenes failed to hear and head. They failed to hear and heed, I think. And then also the Gadarenes in your quote here, Gadarenes failed to hear and heed. Okay, now the thing about the daughters, I think it's a thematic element that keeps the family life going here.
Right.
But only did the daughter, well, the daughter heard and obeyed, didn't she? Even though she was dead.
Yeah, she heeded what she heard. She went awake. She awakened.
Yeah.
Maybe Jairus isn't the point here. It's the healed daughters.
But the thing about Jairus is that verse 49, someone came from the ruler of the synagogue's house saying to him, your daughter is dead, do not trouble the teacher. When Jesus heard him, he answered him saying, do not be afraid, only believe, and she will be made well. And so
And actually, interestingly, it's sozo.
right, sozo.
And sozo also, of course, in verse 50. Pistua and sozo in both verses.
Yeah, pistuo and sozo. So we're off and running here. Yeah, we have that in 48 and 50, don't we?
Yes.
Wow, quite a story. Okay, in the where you have your cursor right now, Steve,
Yeah,
you have the word his just below that, and you don't want that. And I don't think we have a contrast here.
well, aren't the people that are. Let's see where.
There are people who say, your daughter is dead, don't trouble the master. But
I mean, they're not believing, right? They ridiculed him, knowing that she was dead in verse 53. I mean, that's pretty much contrast.
verse 54, he put them all outside.
I mean, they're saying he can't raise her from the dead.
Mhm.
So isn't that a contrast?
Yeah, I think that's right, Steve. But it's in contrast, the townspeople failed to hear and heed, right? Are they townspeople or what are they?
It seems that this is in Capernaum.
The faithless mourners. In both cases, I think they're mourners because in verse 49, somebody came from the synagogue's house saying, "Do not trouble the teacher." That doesn't sound like one of his family. It sounds more like somebody who's there mourning with the family. And then verse 52, all wept and mourned for her.
Yeah, I would say faithless mourners sums it up. Because faithless mourner, they're mourning, saying she's dead.
Mhm.
Jesus says, no, she's sleeping.
Yeah. Yeah, and he says to them, "Do not weep." So they must.
So maybe up here, heedful hearers who portray family discipleship, family values, contrast the world.
Contrast with the world, not contrast the world, contrast with the world.
So here you might actually say, by their fruit, you will know them.
Hmm.
This is one place that actually pertains. Just the wrong kind of fruit.
The little girl put her dad to shame.
Yeah, he's not, he's got some family values, but he's lacking what the disciples lacked up above.
Lack discipleship, family values.
Well, he has some because he asks them to come, but
Uh-huh.
he's not in the inner circle.
Yeah, we have Peter, James, and John here. That would be the, that's the inner family, right? Although I've noticed before, Peter, James, and John were there, the only ones on the Mount of Transfiguration, and they were the only ones invited into the garden. So they saw his exaltation and his humiliation, but here they saw his resurrection power. I think they may be the inner circle, but they seem to perform the function of testimonial. Now they are the inner circle, but I think here the point is he raised someone from the dead. And for a miracle like this, you need witnesses.
So maybe part of that reward is witnessing the power.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we have enough to make negative statements about the Father. The fact that in verse 56, he told them, charged them to tell no one what had happened. He's keeping as much of it as he can to his inner circle. I don't know that we have enough to be able to make a negative statement about the Father.
Oh, from the word astonished there?
Well, I mean,
in verse 56, it says,
where, well, no, you were saying that he wasn't invited in.
oh, actually, he was invited in, right?
Well,
Yeah, the verse number 51. Oh, that's coming into the house. I got that wrong. Let's see here. Verse 54, he put them all outside. Okay, now maybe, I guess Peter, James, and John, nor the Father actually went in, or the mother. He put them all outside. Unless I'm reading more into verse 51 than it's supposed to be there.
Well, and Lon, in verse 56, if he told them to tell no one what happened, it's not about testimony there, right?
Well, by testimony, I'm talking about
Yeah. The question there in verse 54 is who's the them?
Right.
Because I don't think he came into a house that only had a dead girl in it.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, is the them everyone who is there? Or is the them including the father and the mother and the disciples? I mean, who are the them?
Yeah. So you wouldn't think that Jesus would send the father and mother out of their own house with their dead daughter lying there.
Yeah, I think, I mean, my impression is there were mourners outside and then there were people who were inside
Mhm.
and he moved them all out.
Yeah, he put the mourners inside out. Yeah.
So the parents and James, John, and Peter are still in there.
I think that's.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most natural.
But when I was picking on the dad, it was because Jesus apparently anticipated his discouragement after verse 49. Your daughter is dead. Do not trouble the teacher, people say. But when Jesus heard it, he answered him. He didn't answer the messenger. He answered the dad. Do not be afraid, only believe. That would be my take on it. That's why I thought maybe Jesus, and he seemed to see some faltering at the dad. Sort of like the disciples in this whole story. It's not only a lift to the dad, but to the 12 and ultimately to the readers. The dad's a very human guy.
Yeah, it's conceivable that his faith was faltering, but I would say I don't have enough evidence to say that that is the case. He could be saying,
Don't be disturbed.
nothing's changed, I'm still in charge.
Yeah. Yeah,
I just stated it positively. He made a negative and a positive, but I don't know where the man was.
Yeah.
I mean, it well could be the case, but it's not. I don't see anything in the text that requires it.
Yeah.
I think this is good here, though, don't you, for what we have there? I don't think there's a contrast between Jairus and the healed daughters. I mean, maybe he has a little less family value, but he's positive.
Yeah.
Compared to the faithless mourners. I mean, what we have is contrast of people that are they're heedful hearers or not.
Yeah, right. You have an extra word "who" in there. You don't need there, Steve. There you go. Yeah. contrast, the faithless mourners failed to hear.
What I find interesting is, as I look at all three synoptic accounts, it looks like this probably took place in Capernaum. And yeah, it is an interesting thing that it would appear that whoever came to say, well, you don't need to bother the master, seems to have thought, well, he could do something if the daughter were sick, but he can't do anything if he's dead, if she's dead. With that being Jesus' base of operations, they probably had seen various healings that are not recorded, and so forth. So, I mean, it's kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah, we also, go ahead, John.
I wouldn't push it, but I mean, it's very possible.
We also have, we have the fact that that the little girl is twice said to be dead, right? There's no doubt when you read this story that she was dead. The guy comes and says, don't bother the master. And then they laugh at Jesus when he says she's sleeping. So we get, this is like, it's like the soldier piercing the side of Jesus, and out comes blood and water. Jesus was dead, and then he was 3 days dead, and then he was raised. So we have another one of these. This is a documented proof, and then it's documented not only by the mom and dad, but also by the three inner disciples. So it's another one of these cases where, and he raises the widow's son from the funeral procession right out in the middle of the city square. These things were not hidden like secret resurrections or anything like that. It's not like these guys who go to the Philippines and they say, oh yeah, this guy was raised, our preacher raised this guy from the dead. You don't really get that kind of thing. It's somewhere on the other side of the world where there's no communication or anything. No, this is right out in the open where it's all documented. You can say that Luke is a liar, but you can't say that there wasn't an effort made to make sure that this was all well established fact.
You know, it's interesting. If James, John, and Peter were more heedful, they still lacked heeding when they're when they're supposed to be praying. In the garden.
Yep.
So no matter how much you're heedful, you're heedful hearing compared to other people, there's always an opportunity to become more heedful.
Yep.
Don't compare yourself to the other ones. Don't compare yourself to Judas.
Yeah, Lord doesn't grade on a curve.
Boy, that's really good, I think.
So this is good, Steve. Now, question. Let's go up to the heading above these points. What's the point that we're making up there? This is in the section where the point we're making is disciples reproducing disciples reflect Jesus' prophetic authority when they hear and heed. Okay, that's good. What's this corresponding point above that one? Where it says disciples, which is what, level 3 or level 4, whatever that is.
Why didn't it go down there?
Well, because you didn't have anything selected.
Oh, what'd that do?
Yeah, you just changed it all into that. So you just want to undo Control Z.
Yeah,
That just ruined your whole outline.
yeah, that would take some work to reproduce and to get it back.
Okay. Where's the other window?
Oh, right here.
Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, let's see here. Where were we? We're in Northern Ministry, right? Yeah, we're in Northern Ministry. And this was about, so all right.
I went too far, I think.
Okay.
Oh, we're right here.
Yeah.
I need to go back up a little bit.
Well, I don't know if we're quite ready to say this yet, but you have in verses 12 to 49, introducing his disciples to kingdom authority. And then you have the kingdom authority rejected by those who are in authority. And now zeroing in on the disciples, not so much on the leadership, the national leadership. But now you're zeroing in on the disciples and actually zeroing in more and more. The circle keeps getting smaller. We've got believers, and then we've got a discipleship family. So maybe we're not ready to say anything like that yet, but it'd sure be nice to figure out what's going on.
Well, it looks like the next section there is that not just the heedful hearing, but the knowledge of the sacrificial implications of that.
Yeah. Okay, well, maybe we're not quite there yet. And really, that's just one of the 2 subpoints there under the Northern Ministry, right? Which a lot of it has to do with authority.
Yeah, we're going to get into serious opposition that results in Jesus making his withdrawals, but it definitely is giving a context for putting the disciples out into a ministry that's going to face some opposition.
Okay, I see a problem, a couple or three problems with our outline here. First, Jesus taught us your last blue point there. Jesus taught his disciples expect some acceptance amidst opposition to his purpose. We've got going all the way to 950. And then we have a red point down there that has Jesus showed his disciples that grasping him as their exemplar would lead them to suffer. So realize regard rewards glory.
Oh, that needs to move in one, right?
Well,
Two.
the red one right above it goes all the way to 50, and so does your,
Which means, yeah, but let's see what else we have there, because do we have anything for 1 through 36? Yeah, that resolved it.
okay. Question would be, maybe, some of these others, some of the other segments in Luke Acts have a kind of a final challenge, which ends up as a fourth subpoint. If so, then I think we're gonna have to go over 9 and see what it's all about. Maybe 37 to 50 is as it is in some of the other booklets in Luke. It may be a final challenge to the disciples. It is a separate segment. I just don't know if that's true yet. We'll just have to work down through this and see. So I think you're right, John, though, that it's a good introduction to where they're going. They're going to face more opposition, so it's a fitting conclusion to this section.
Well, I think we moved it out there, Lon, when John wasn't with us one time, because it's the disciples couldn't heal the demoniac. And we thought that was a separate part, so that should actually be through 36, and then 937 through 50 was the disciples had yet to be maybe the inner family.
Why don't you move that back out, Stephen?
I'll put this at 36 right now.
Yeah, well, Lon, it wouldn't go back as far out as it was. It was out further than the point for 1 through 36.
Yeah, that's right. So shift
Right there.
tab. Okay, now go up. What's above this? Yeah, let's see here.
Yeah, and we're going to say something here that
Steve, just for the sake of argument, why don't you move that out one more, and then we can deal with it when we get to it. Put it back where we had it, and then we'll run it by John when we finally get a chance to get to see where it fits.
Do you want me to move it in or move it out?
Move it back.
I put it out one where it's the fifth one.
Put it back out one more where we had it, where you and I had it to begin with,
Okay.
and then we'll just see when we get there. There. in fact, I don't know if we're quite there yet, but maybe we've got just as far as the general size of chunks here, we've got most of chapter 6 as 1 point, most of chapter 7 as 1 point, all of chapters, yeah, chapter 7. Basically, chapter 8 is a chunk, and now we've got another chunk here. Yeah, so I don't know. We'll just see when we get there. Okay, so 9:1 to 36.
Maybe this is not so much the sacrificial implications as the discipleship family responsibilities.
Well, 21 through 36 introduces the crucifixion and the necessity to follow him. That we haven't heard before in Luke.
But can't that fall under the discipleship family responsibilities? It's a subcategory of it. So we have first of all, going out and telling them about the kingdom.
Well, verses 7 through 20 add something important to that. Steve, he sent them out, but this is a section where they come to the testimony, as opposed to Herod, who has no idea who Jesus is. The disciples have a clear idea who he is.
Well, not clear enough though, because they don't think he can feed the 5,000. He says you give them something to eat. They say we can't do it.
Mhm.
So again, we have like Jairus and the daughters. We have some faith, but not enough faith.
Well, at least it was enough faith. And now maybe I'm off base on this, but it looks like it's enough faith for them to come to the confession that he is the Christ of God, as opposed to Herod. right?
Right.
So they understand that much. And so he says, okay, we're going to build on that. The next thing you need to know is you're going to, if you're going to follow me, you're going to have to follow me with your whole life. Now, the thing about family is we don't have any, the theme of family is over. Verse 56, we don't hear any more about family. I think that was something that was useful for that section, but I'm not sure the theme continues.
Okay, so let's say we don't make it discipleship family. Maybe it's just responsibilities of discipleship.
Well, but it's a unique responsibility in that
Yeah, I'm getting a different sense. What Jesus has been doing has risen in gravity. Jesus is raised from the dead. We have now very serious opposition to him by Herod and so forth. He's going to give lots of emphasis to the cross is awaiting him. And yet, with the transfiguration, all is not lost. This is still heading in the direction that the kingdom is going to happen. Moses and Elijah are going to have their roles. And I think all of this is saying that the cross is coming. And there are going to be consequences for you disciples. But I'm still the one that can raise the dead. And somehow this is all going to come together in the kingdom. All the promises that I've been making, they're all going to come true. And I mean, if we are not giving a picture of the cross and the resurrection, or cross and the coming of the kingdom, I think we are picking up on issues that are there, but are not hitting the big direction that this thing is going.
That makes sense to me.
I mean, I'm not quite sure how to state it, but it seems like all this opposition that's coming is going to take my life, but it's not putting an end to all that I've been saying. And, you know, I've got the power. He's demonstrated that. So, I mean, he's not talking flippantly in regard to there is going to be a solution to all of this. They're not in a position yet to understand all of this, but what does he have them doing? He has them, he sends them out, and where he's sending them out, he's delegating authority. I mean, the fact that he's delegating authority to them and they were able to do the things as long as they were functioning as they were supposed to, and that is making very clear he really has the power even to delegate that. So the fact that his life is going to be taken from him, somehow this is all supposed to come together, and the disciples are supposed to start figuring that out. They aren't figuring that out, but that's where it's going.
I'll just throw something in. It's off topic. I agree with what you're saying there, but I notice here that the three disciples go in to see the little girl raised, Peter, James, and John.
Mhm.
And then there's the three same disciples who observed the transfiguration. So this, just to underline your point, or at least concur with it. Yeah, they're seeing where this has to go, even though
Yeah.
there's a death of
Be right back.
Yeah.
in the middle of it. You can't. I think we were maybe seeing not seeing the forest for the trees, or the trees for the forest, one or the other. Probably the forest for the trees. But the opposition is growing. Jesus will die, but the kingdom message will continue. He sends them to preach the kingdom of God, right? Isn't that what the message is supposed to be? And he's sort of letting them know up front, hey, this is not going to go in the direction that you might have intended, might have anticipated. But this thing is so big,
And it's not going to fall apart as it's going to start looking like it's going to fall apart either.
yeah. The steamroller is running here, and nobody's going to be able to stop it. Something like that. That's a great.
Let's see, since Steve's gone, I need to step aside for a moment.
He'll be there in 10 minutes. Good. All right. I was a little nervous because there's 20 minutes to 12, so but he'll be there in 10 minutes. Well, it's 11:30. Yeah. So I just thought if he gets there in 10 and you won't be there for 20, I need to call him, but I'm glad you're there. All right. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, I'm wondering here whether we've necessarily made the right break at 9:1, because the raising from the dead, yeah, I mean, some of this is possibly first step in this argument.
Oh, sorry, guys. We're between my surgery, confirming that, and my washing machine's down, our dishwashing machine's down. I had to confirm that Lori would be there. Until Jesus comes back, I have temporal sacrifices that I'm going to have to take care of.
Yep.
I really like this, John. This, what I hear you saying is Jesus is revealing there's going to be some temporal sacrificial implications, but they're nothing compared to the glory that's coming.
Yeah. And, you know, I asked Lon there just before he came back, have we made the right division at 9:1? Because, you know, and he's raising from the dead and dealing with a legion of demons. I mean, all this is making it so that when they go out with a message, they're supposed to have confidence that he's going to do exactly what he promised. Then there he is saying, I'm going to be put to death and all that. Nothing has changed. I mean, as far as it doesn't negate the message that he's commissioned them with.
I think you're right, John. This is a bigger, much bigger enterprise beginning in 9/1 because of his healing the demon possessed man and the two daughters.
Yeah.
We do. It seems to me, though, we still have to. First of all, in the healing of the two daughters, he goes out of his way to Jesus does, to make sure that we realize, hey, here's the real family. We've got daughters here. He could have called them women, or he could have called them, like he does elsewhere, a little girl. The little girl. So it seems like there's a residue of that left over from the beginning of this narrative section after the parable. It looks like this ties in somehow with that. And then, like I say, I don't think we have anything like that. We don't have any family emphasis at all. So I think you're right that this is a much bigger thing, but I don't know what to do with the residual of the family emphasis there. Or maybe it's just coincidental that he calls them both daughters and the booklet ends in verse 50. So these strings of thought have to come together by then.
You know, the disciples in nine 12 sound like the messenger that came to Jairus.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That's true.
You know, we have another thing that's running through this section. 856, he charged not to tell anyone what happened. He tells the disciples with the when he predicts his death and resurrection in 9:21, commands them to tell no one. And
Verse 36 also then.
yes, so that theme has started in chapter 8.
That's correct.
You know, it's interesting that he doesn't record Peter saying, "Never will I let you do this" here.
Yep.
Because you would think, or I would think, it appears to me the disciples they have faith, but they don't have the discipleship family faith that he's trying to get them to acquire. And in contrast to the other people around, yeah, they have faith,
Yep.
but they don't have what they need yet.
Yeah. One of the things that Luke is characterized by people who study the synoptic problem as, and obviously I'm going to express it from the standpoint that most of the writing is from the Markan hypothesis. They say Luke omitted much of Mark, but rarely transposed him. And if he did transpose, it was usually a simple inversion. Well, instead, what we have is Luke omits much that's in Matthew, the book that's before him. One of the reasons that I think that Luke exercised a lot of selectivity and did leave things out was he knew that he was going to have that central section, the travel narrative from 951 through 1814, that has very few parallels with Matthew. And incidentally, very few parallels, of course, with Mark, which came subsequently. Luke has to be selective because he is going to devote a lot of attention to those three trips. But that Peter's faltering there would have been a nice way of reinforcing the point that Luke is making here. But I think the fact that he, let's see, let me go back to something I'm presupposing. With the issue of scrolls, Greek writers avoided having books that were longer than 35 feet in length. So like Josephus, all of his writings are divided into books, and each one of those books would have fit on a scroll 35 feet in length or shorter, and the same with author after author after author. And the Gospel of Luke would take about 32 feet in a papyrus scroll.
So he has to be selective.
Yeah, he's forced into selectivity. The fact that he wants that central section there he is writing and he says, I've got a lot more to write. He doesn't know that he ends up coming out about 32 feet, but he has no way of knowing whether he might come out 36, 37, or 40 feet.
Well, I really like this idea, John, that the transfigurations, the ultimate here, not him going to the cross, it's the transfiguration.
Mhm.
So are you thinking that this goes from 8:4 to
I'm not sure.
9:36 or not? Yeah.
I haven't figured out where it breaks, but I think that we haven't broken it in the right place.
For a student like me, I need more obvious progress markers.
Well, it sure is interesting that it appears that you have the same combination where you have Jairus, who's got faith, not the faith that he needs, but he's got faith. The girls have the faith that is rewardable. And here you have Herod that doesn't have any. Oh, and then you have the people that don't have any faith, the townspeople. You have Herod that doesn't have any faith here. You have this disciples that have some faith. And maybe you have the inner circle. I don't know.
How about this for a break? As opposed to 8:56, 9:6.
That's the way that the Bible, I mean, not Bible Knowledge Commentary, but the GES commentary breaks it. They take it for their heading that there's a rejection of his first advent, which precipitates a need to clarify that there will be an inter-advent period. Which, if you have a crucifixion and then you have the kingdom coming anyway, it's
So then I don't have it open, but then does it break it again at 9:36? Is that the end of their section then?
it goes 9:7 through 13:22. The rejection of the Messiah will prompt an inter-advent era. That is taking it through the first journey.
Well, that would be quite a challenge to our way of looking at things, right? I mean, I'm just so stuck on these progress markers
Yeah,
that we would end the section at 9:50. At least as of now, I'm committed to that.
yeah, I think so too.
Mhm. But if it, yeah, so I'm thinking the subsection would go, well, then maybe it would begin at 7 and go through.
Yeah.
Maybe 36, or maybe to the end of the segment, which is verse 50. I don't know. Wow. Just when you think you got all the pieces put together, there comes a nice little curveball. That verses, chapter 9, verses 1 to 6 would then, as you said, John, they would be consistent with the gravity that has appeared suddenly in this section. I don't know if suddenly is the right word, but we have the demon possessed man healed, and then we have the raising of a girl from the dead. So he has established his authority in a way here that even in Gentile territory, that is preach worthy. So on that score, he's able to send them out with authority, which they would have seen over all demons, and to cure diseases, and to preach the kingdom, and to heal the sick. Well, that's just based on chapter 9. Excuse me, chapter 8.
Right. Yeah. They're going out with a message that they can preach with confidence, and then all of a sudden, there are some new wrinkles that are thrown into it.
Right. Herod's sinister interest, and a confirmation that Jesus is indeed able to provide for the people in the wilderness. And there are even 12 fragments left over by the disciples. He made them pick up all the baskets, and there were 12 baskets, one for each. So then he brings them to the conclusion: are you ready to say not only that the kingdom is at hand, but are you ready to say that I am the king? And he is indeed. They are indeed ready to say that. But then comes, well, this will involve my death. On the other hand, it doesn't stop the program of God, because Moses and Elijah are meet with me, and I am able to. The thing is going to happen just as we have been talking about all along. And then I don't know quite what to do with 37 through 50. Well, with that, Steve, I'm going to have to sign off. Great.
Okay, I'm gonna put this in bold, so we'll know where to be next week.
Okay.
I'm gonna put, I don't know where we're gonna break that. I'll just put it right like that.
Okay.
Save it, and we'll see everybody next week.
Very good.
Very enlightening session today, Steve.
Yeah, I will email you a copy of this, Lon,
Okay.
so you can give it to them if you want.
Sounds good.
When it'll take a couple hours, but
Okay.
see you
Very good.
later.
All
Take care.
Okay. Bye.
And do well on your, we'll be praying for you.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.
Likewise.